Hello and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation with me, your host, Owen James, the channel that likes to bring you Rangers news every single day, guys. Look, it is the international break. Yes, another boring international break. So, of course, thought even turn to what season that's gone so far, what's coming up, where we're at as a team, where we're at as a club, where we need to be as a team and as a club. Now, there's been a lot in the media recently, and there's been a lot of thought amongst the supporters around the manager, Philippe Clement. A lot of concern over Clement in terms of a number of factors that bring concern that, very much ask the questions. Number one, has he lost the fans? Number two, has he lost the players? And, if that is the case, that he's lost both the fans and the players, is he little more than, as they said in the film Green Mile, dead man walking? Is he mainly here because at the end of the day, there is no one at the top to take the decision? It is unclear as to what power John Gilligan, interim chairman, has to make changes to this football club. We know that he's been tasked with finding a CEO. We know that is a definite, that that is something that is still ongoing. And, for something that was supposedly imminent when John Bennett spoke months ago, to something that recruitment consultancy were allegedly helping us with, to now it being the 13th of November, and still no news of interviews, no news of a shortlist, no news of possible candidates. I mean, there's not even names being linked anymore. I mean, obviously Gillespie from St Mirren, Bevington, the former FA guy, all were linked with the job, but all of that seems to have gone by the by now, and there doesn't seem to be anything on that front. So is Clement a little more than a dead man walking because, there is no chairman, there is no CEO, there is no one effectively at the top of the business to take the decision to sack him? That he is merely enjoying time in the job because there is no one to take the ultimate decision. A lot of the decision making, it's quite clear, is being left up to Clement and Niels Koppen at this stage, with the club, because, like I said, there is no director of football operations either. So Koppen and Clement quite clearly have a lot of power at this moment in time. The parks seem to be fulfilling the role of absentee landlords, very much not getting involved in all at this moment in time. So, what is the situation? Now, look, Clement is worrying from a number of aspects. I think, for example, we've not seen any development in this manager at all in terms of the team. I think if you contrast it with the Aberdeen situation with Jimmy Thielen, I mean, look, I don't want to talk about England, particularly about the English Premier League, because I think it's an unrealistic, what's what I'm looking for here? An unrealistic comparison because of the fact that, the money down there is so vast. If you compare it with the Scottish game, you compare it with Jimmy Thielen, who's come in and made huge differences to that club already in terms of reorganising the squad, having a clear playing style, having a clear shape, having a clear formation, having a clear set of ideas, set of tactics, and making effective substitutions, bar obviously that one game in the semi-final against Celtic. Although I do feel that this season Celtic will do that to a lot of teams. Aberdeen, for me, at the moment, are in prime position to actually finish second this season. They look better than we do, more effective going forward, more effective defending, more effective with the ball, more effective without the ball. I think one of the things that's been levelled at Clement, and I think which has led to the supporters, kind of not completely as yet. I think there's still an element within this fan base that still support the manager. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this is 100% everyone hates him, everybody wants him out. I think it's if I had to put a level on it, I'd say it's 60-40, 70-30 for him to go at this moment in time. I think there's still a minority, and a substantial minority within the fan base, that want him to be given more time. Although quite how much more time you can give him when you look at his record is, questionable. There are a number of elements that have kind of led us to this position, I think, with Clement. Number one is the way the team is playing domestically. I mean, yes, there are some very promising performances in Europe, but I think it's felt that his tactics and the way he plays the game suits the European style of football more. Hence why perhaps he had more success in Belgium with Genk and Bruges, but that doesn't explain Monaco. And I will touch on that shortly. So I think obviously the way that we're playing is not good. The football that the fans are seeing is turgid, is boring, is just not showing any progress. I think if you could see elements of progress there, and I know one of the things that's kind of spoken about is that Rangers are undergoing a rebuild. There's been a lot of change. Players have gone out, players have come in. We hear from Clement, constantly that, that some of these players have only been in the building months. So, it's unfair, to expect to hit the ground running straight away. Yet, if you look at other clubs in Scotland, Aberdeen, for example, players have come and hit the ground running. Celtic as well with some of their new signings. So I think that is a little bit, kind of an excuse from Clement and not a very good one. And I think to some degree, he does come out with the same stuff, press conference after press conference. And some of his observations post-match annoy supporters. When you hear moral victory, when you hear we were as good as Celtic when they absolutely outplayed us for 90 minutes, when you hear that was our best performance of the season, when, we were actually really poor. In a defeat against Aberdeen, you kind of sit there and you kind of shake your head and you think, seriously, mate, you need to think before you speak, and you need to kind of look. I'm not saying you come out and you slaughter the team and you throw the players under the bus and you absolutely slam everybody, but there are ways and means of saying things, and there are ways and means of doing things. You can look at other managers when their teams are playing poorly and how they speak about their team. And I think some of Clement's comments leave the fan base very much in the what is he talking about and doubting him as a manager because of those comments. And I don't think he helps himself with the things that he says. It leads people to think that he is incompetent, that he doesn't have the knowledge to do the job. And like I said, it may be that he is just kind of, spinning a lie, spinning a line to try and, to keep his players on side to some degree. That's the style of football is very much one of them. His favoritism of certain players that, that certain players can play as badly as they want for a number of games and perceivably get worse game on game on game, but yet never be dropped. Yet players who perform well seem to be rotated in and out of the team at will. Dujon Sterling, for example. Something that supporters kind of sit there and they kind of think, well, this doesn't make any sense. Surely you should be in a team on merit, not just because you've been here a long time or because you're the captain or because, you scored goals last season. That is not reasons to keep someone in the side. So I think that's a frustration with him. The frustration of substitutions as well, the Conor Barron situation. I think his comment that the supporters, not having the right to boo and, not knowing everything, not knowing the full story. When you've got a team going into an international break, when you've got a team that's, a young player that, if you can't play 2 lots of 90 minutes in a week, we've got a bit of an issue. I think saying that again wasn't the cleverest thing. You've just got to listen to some of the calls that have gone into Rangers forums, Rangers podcasts, Rangers phone-in shows, with some of the supporters, kind of really questioning how dare he say that. So, I think that's another element. Obviously, yet another element of that is his record against Celtic, which is absolutely awful. Even Michael Beale, who is widely regarded as one of the worst Rangers managers of all time, beat Celtic in one game. Philippe Clement has never beaten Celtic, apart from, of course, his moral victory, which was a 3-3 at Ibrox last season, where, quite frankly, we could have been 4-5-0 down going into half-time. So, I think his record against Celtic and also his inability to learn against Celtic has kind of put him in a position where fans are losing faith in him. You look at the style of football played against Celtic. It's the same style every single game, and it doesn't work every single game. Yet there never seems to be a plan B. Plan B is do plan A, but do plan A with different players playing in the same positions, which to me makes no sense. Dyson Maeda up against Tav. It's quite clear that Dyson Maeda absolutely rips Tav a new one every time he plays against him. Yet Clement seems quite happy to continue with Tav at right back and allow Dyson Maeda just to run past him at will, which isn't doing Tav any favours and isn't doing the team any favours. So there's loads of elements there to the manager. I mean, his overall record at Rangers, on the face of it, doesn't look that bad. I mean, for a football manager having a win percentage of 66%, if he was in the English Premier League, you'd be, rated as one of the top managers in the league. But it's not the EPL, it's not La Liga, it's not the Bundesliga, it's not Serie A. It's not one of the top 5 leagues in Europe. It's Scotland. Rangers are expected to win every game. That is the way it works in Scotland. Yes, some of those defeats have come in Europe, fair enough, against Benfica, against Lyon, for example. But, by that element, there is a lot of those defeats that have come against Celtic, have come against Aberdeen, have come against Kilmarnock, that are just plainly not acceptable. So he's managed 63 games, won 42, drawn 10, lost 11, win percentage is 66.67%. A lot of those wins came at the start of his time as manager. Now, I want to talk about the players as well. And this issue I don't want to talk about the board or the running of the club. I'm talking about just the playing side of it now. And you know, as much as you know, I hate the Parks and I don't rate the board, and I think the board are incompetent. I don't think you can hold them responsible for what's on the pitch day to day. Yes, they're responsible for the appointments and the signings, but when it comes down to day-to-day running of the team and day-to-day coaching of the team, and the team that takes the Park on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Thursday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday or a Monday or whenever the hell we play these days, that's down to the manager, that's down to the coaching staff, and that's down to the players. And I do want to address the players as well to some degree. But, you know, you can't, I don't think, in all good conscience, say that Clement hasn't had time. You know, 63 games is a substantial number of games. You know, that's almost 2 seasons worth of league fixtures. You know, he has had time from that aspect. Yes, perhaps not enough time with not enough of his own players, but you know, in an ideal world, that would be the case. But unfortunately, we don't live in an ideal world, and the situation is that, you know, as a club, we cannot afford to go and spend, splash, and pay a lot of money out for players because we haven't got any money. You know, we are £17 million in debt from the last set of accounts. So, you know, January there isn't going to be a vast sum of money spent. It will be loans, freebies, etc. Next summer, it will be very much down, I think, to how much money we raise through sales. So I think the situation is difficult from that aspect, but a good coach gets a tune out of what he's got. You know, I think the thing that's often leveled at these players, and I don't think the players are completely absolved from blame on what we're seeing on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a game by game basis, of course. And like I said, I will touch on the players, but you know, it is the fact that Clement is, you know, the players like we've got. If you put someone like, for example, let's take, you know, coaches like, I mean, let's go from the sublime to the ridiculous, shall we? Let's go from the unobtainable to the perhaps more obtainable, right? You know, if you took this set of players and you gave them to Pep Guardiola, to Jurgen Klopp, to Arne Slot, to Mikel Arteta, to Enzo Maresca, to Eddie Howe, I think Unai Emery, you know, I think you would see a far more effective team, a clear style, a clear shape, a clear set of tactics, and a team that played at least decent football. I think as well, if you gave this team to the likes of Derek McInnes, to who else can I think of, you know, around this moment? Jimmy Thielen, for example, the Aberdeen manager. Or, you know, if you gave this team to Kjetil Knutsen or Francesco Farioli, you know, I still think you would see a more joined up philosophy, a clearer set of tactics, a clearer shape, and a better sets of team performances than you are seeing under Philippe Clement. Now, people talk about, well, that's down to the players. Well, I think, you know, Clement has previous for this type of football and for seeing this type of play. You know, go and check out the fan forums, the Monaco fan forums, the Monaco podcasts. Go and listen to the Monaco content creators, you know, ask them these questions. A lot of what we're saying is similar to what they were saying near the end of Clement's reign in Monaco. So he, outside of Belgium, he has struggled. He's becoming, in a way, the Sam Lammers of managers. You know, Sam Lammers, who looks fantastic in the Eredivisie, yet take him out of the Eredivisie and he's like a fish out of water. Is Clement the same? So look, that's the element there, that with the fact that the fans seem to have gone, the players don't seem to be putting in the effort, I don't think, for him anymore. I think there is a real sense of downing of tools by certain players, which is wrong, 100% wrong. But, you know, is that down to him not inspiring them, not leading them in the right way, not keeping them on side? You know, there is an element of that. Unfortunately, you know, the days of Graham Souness, the days of Willie Waddell, the days of Scott Simon, the days of Alex McLeish, of Sir Walter, those days are gone. You know, the days of managers, even Sir Alex Ferguson, you know, taking outside of Rangers, a domineering manager. The days of a manager being that dominating personality, being that you will do it or else I will kick your ass from here till God knows where, Brian Clough-esque, are over. Players have too much power now. You know, the same way that kids have too much power in schools these days, and you know, teaching is probably the hardest job in the world right now. So, you know, players have a lot of power, and that's an issue. Now, coming on to the players, I think the players are cheating the manager. I think the players are cheating the manager. I think the players are cheating the fans. You know, this team that I showed earlier, and I think, yes, some of it is down to team selection, don't get me wrong. And Clement, like I said, it is not all one person's fault. Clement, I think, carries 60% of the blame and the players 40% of the blame. But, you know, that team there should not be struggling in this league. You know, domestically, you know, we have better players than the vast majority of teams in this league. You know, I think other than perhaps Celtic, most of our players would get into most of the teams in this league. So a lot of it is down to those players. Now, you go back to last season when Clement came in and you see the effort those players put in and contrast that effort with the effort they are now putting in. And there is a marked difference and not a good one. You know, are the players cheating the manager? Are they stealing a wage? And to some degree, you've got to say that certain players, not all, Connor Barron, Nicholas Raskin apart, for example, Dujon Sterling, I'd also put into that list, Cass, you know, I don't think are stealing a wage, aren't, you know, showing a complete lack of effort, you know, aren't just kind of downing tools and trying to get the manager sacked. So I do think the players carry a lot of blame. And I think what the frustrating thing would be is that if Clement was sacked tomorrow and we were to say appoint a manager for the interim, you'd probably see the first 10 games after the international break, a sudden uplift in form, a sudden bounce, a sudden quality of play that you've never seen before, a sudden improvement in the team. And that's cheating. And that's cheating the fans and that's cheating the manager. So I think the players do carry some of the blame for what we're seeing. Not the majority of it. I think the majority of it is still with Clement because he has obviously a duty of care to coach, to put a style in place, which doesn't happen. And players, when they are left without a clear direction, when they are left without a clear set of instructions, you know, I mean, you'll know from a workplace, if you're a manager and your staff don't feel valued, they don't feel like there's a clear direction to what you want them to achieve, they haven't got clear instructions as to what you want them to do or what you need them to do on a daily basis, they become, you know, unmotivated, they lack respect, they kind of down tools. And I think you're seeing the same at Rangers. So for me, there is a real issue there. But like I said, I think Clement is very much dead man walking. But will Clement get through to the end of the season? I mean, the record this season is not great, is it? I mean, this is us to date. We've played 20 games this season so far. We've won 12, drawn 3, lost 5, 39 points. We average under 2 points a game, which is not great. I know some of that's cup football, so it doesn't count for points. But, you know, 5 out of 20, you know, that's what a quarter. Yeah, a quarter of our games we've lost already this season, which for Rangers is wholly unacceptable. So, you know, there are clear issues there. And like I said, the manager does have to carry a large part of the blame. Now, people say, well, you can't go on rinse, repeat, sacking managers. Well, you can if they're not doing their job. You know, you don't keep someone in a job just because you sack the person before them. You know, you've got to have the right person doing the right job. Yes, money is an issue. I get that. But I think, you know, his new contract will have been worded in such a way that money isn't an issue, if I'm being honest with you. So there are issues there with Clement quite clearly. And I honestly believe that, you know, we will go through now to the 15th of December. I've got a video dropping later today called D-Day, 15th of the 12/24, which talks about how that could be the end of Clement's reign. You know, he is dead man walking in effect because I think because of the fact there is a power vacuum at the top of the club, there is no one to take decisions at the top of the club. He is perhaps staying in his post a little bit longer than he would have done in the past had we had a strong chairman and a strong CEO. That's my belief. I mean, I might be wrong. I might be talking out the top of my head. But look, my opinion is this. This is a clear opinion. Right, let me just set this out, summarize this. One, I don't believe this manager is the right manager to take this club forward. Because A, his tactics are poor. B, his in-game management is poor. C, his formations are poor and too rigid and he won't change them. D, there is no plan B. E, his shape, his way of playing is boring and doesn't work. F, he is unwilling to change. There's just so many reasons for me why he does not work as this club's manager, and I've backed him in the past. I honestly believe that, as I said on the video yesterday, the 5 reasons for hope, we have players capable of taking this club forward. We have players at this moment in time that are more than capable of making us compete in Scotland. Bayrami, Barron, Raskin, Danilo, Cortez, Katz, Sterling, Butland. You know, there are players capable. Yes, there are a lot of weak links and a lot of average, awful players like Dowell, like Lawrence, like Tavernier, like Dessers that need to be shipped out. Of course there are, but there are still a lot of players with a lot of talent at this club that can take this club forward. So there is optimism there, but I don't think this manager is the right person for all the reasons I've kind of tried to talk through in a kind of way here in this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, please smash the like, smash the share, comment, sub, all that great stuff. Ring the bell. All of it helps. promote the channel. Thank you for watching. Please remember, we are the people.